Okay, so we spent last night with our friends who live just to the east of Limoges. Didn't film anything there, but yeah, we had quite a good barbecue and lazy breakfast this morning. And this afternoon we've come out to the memorial village, which is just to the west of Limoges. It's about 80 kilometres from where they live, and we're going to have a wander around. And the name of the village is Oradour Sur Glane. And if you look it up, you'll see that it was a village that was wiped out on the 10th of June 1944, and quite horrific, but we're going to have a wander around and do a little bit of filming. This is the tramway that would have run to Limoges before the atrocity, and most of the village has been left actually how it was. A little bit of work has been done, but generally it's all been left as it was.
That was somebody's car once.
Not much left at all really, just a few odd metal components of bicycles and beds. 642 people massacred and the village ransacked. You can see some of the structural work that's been done to try and preserve the ruins for as long as possible, and obviously the wall is now getting in a state of being very, very fragile. A lot of the ironwork, as you can see, just disappearing into dust. With the old cars rusting away. Hardly anything, well, nothing left of the roofs. How much longer will this lot be here? Post office and telephone exchange, and we can probably just make out through the windows there where again they've had to do some concrete reinforcement work to retain the building. More twisted ironwork and bits of machinery. It looks like this probably was something to do with a timber mill or something like that. It looks like some form of bandsaw. Would have been quite a reasonable garage. It had RSJs up there to enable you to probably lift things like engines out and stuff like that. So whoever had this garage must have been pretty proud of their vehicle. It looks like, I mean, it's very difficult to tell what vehicle it is, but it looks like it's four-wheel drive. Don't know what that would be. No, possibly it's just the engine at the front. Very difficult to tell what.
Look at that leaf suspension.
Yeah. Very difficult to tell what vehicles it was, unless you're some sort of vehicle expert and you know. One of the numerous cafes that the little village had, and here we stand right at the top of the village, and just down here is the tram line that goes to Limoges, is it? Limoges. And this would have been the main drag down into the village. So we're going to wander back down there and just wander around some more of it. The village wasn't rebuilt after the war, and apparently General de Gaulle decreed that it should be left absolutely untouched. And they've tried to do that as much as possible. The only work they've done has been to try and retain what they've got here. New village was built behind us, where we're parked in the motorhome, and is quite bustling today. Yeah, it's very difficult to find words to actually convey what this is like. Just a few remains of somebody's business. This was the forge, or the metal and iron worker. Buried underneath the collapsed wall there, we can see remains of a vehicle. And he just said that, yeah, over a period of time, this is what it's all going to end up like. And hopefully they'll be able to keep some of it standing or safe. And it's very quiet here. Can't hear any birds. In the distance is a memorial, and behind that is the cemetery. Not a small village at all. This was obviously a very prosperous village. The amount of cars that are evident, people had some money living here. And of course, it being fairly close to Limoges, the tram obviously meant they could travel there and back to work. Certainly a lot of vehicles about. Seems to be a huge number of wrecked vehicles for the time. We're talking 1940. What's left of the town's garage. Something that's going to be here for a little while, the oxygen bottle. Obviously for working on the vehicles. This in fact shows you the wealth of this place. It had 2 garages, not 1 garage. This is the 2nd garage. So this wasn't some little village in the middle of nowhere. This was a small town, very prosperous, hive of people just going about their daily lives. And it's just ended one day, 10th of June 1944. If you get a chance, come here, look at it, and remember.
Oradour Sur Glane by David Lewis Paget. I woke to the smell of new baked bread from the bakery down the way. Mama was singing and feeding the hens. I had no school today. Pierre and I had arranged to go for a ramble soon or late, to look for the trilling skylark's nest and the hedgehog's rolling gait. Papa was sat in the garden. He was fixing my sister's bike, while Grandpa sat on the old wood bench, filling his gnarled old pipe. The sun was set in a pale blue sky, and the Lord smiled down on the town. The war was a million miles away from Oradour Sur Glane. Pierre was waiting across the street. We ran with a whoop of joy. "I'll race you out to the barley field," he said, my cousin's boy. We found a hollow within the crop, lay there in the broad sunlight, and watched the birds as they swooped on down from their laughing joyous flight. At 2 o'clock we heard the clatter of many an army truck. They drove to surround the village fields. There were 20 near enough. Then soldiers leapt from the canopies. Their uniforms were black, an SS sign on their collars, and a skull on each forage cap. They herded the workers into the town. We lay in a funk and hid. We heard the guttural sharp commands. They did as the soldiers bid. A woman ran in a terror then. A shot rang out and she fell. Pierre stood up. As he ran, he cried, "That was my Aunt Giselle." I said, "Come back." But he ran towards the centre of the town. A shot rang out as he scaled the fence. Pierre went tumbling down. I knew at once that my friend was dead. I held my breath and wept, and burrowed deep in the barley field. I see his body yet. They marched the men en masse along to Madame Laudie's barn. They led the women and children to the church in their alarm. They took the babies, pushers too, crammed deep inside the church. But then the SS opened fire, and they lit a blazing torch. The men, they were slaughtered in the barn. They never told them why. The barn went up in flames as well. I lay in the field and cried. I lost my mother and my sister too, my father and my gran. The devil smiled on his work that day in Oradour Sur Glane. They burnt the town, burnt every home. They turned the town to hell. I wonder whether the soldiers wept when they went down as well. For off the coast at Normandy was an army with a plan to slay the butchers that killed the town of Oradour Sur Glane.